Starting question.
Okay.
We're good to go, Chair Williams.
All right, great. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Monday, May 13th special meeting for Mountain Line Board of Directors. Please be advised that in accordance with open meeting laws, we may have to go into executive session in accordance with that process. And all such meetings are not open to the public if that's a need. We have a short agenda today. And Rhonda, if you may, please do a roll call, please.
Thank you. One question. There's a Tom Evans in the waiting room. Is that someone we expected from Lumen?
Yes.
Great. Just wanted to double check. I'll admit him.
So
Thanks.
Tom Evans and Stacy Pearson may join us from Lumen Strategies.
Okay, so thank you, Chairman and members of the board. City of Flagstaff, Lori Matthews.
Here.
Thank you. Coconino County, Geronimo Vasquez.
Present.
Thank you. We also have his alternate from Coconino County, Judy Begay. Judy, are you with us? She may have left. Okay. City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet.
Hi all, I am here. I'm gonna leave my camera off. I'm having to do this meeting in the bathroom of my store. So I'm sure you don't want to see that. So I have no other place to go right now. Anyway, I'm here.
I'll be on second.
NAU, Josh Mayer.
Present.
Thank you. CCC, Tony Williams.
Present.
And we do have Supervisor Begay joining us again. And Scott Holcomb, are you on the line with us? Did we see Scott? Yeah, okay. Scott, are you there? If he dropped off, hopefully he'll rejoin. Tom Evans with Lumen Strategies.
Yes, I'm on.
Hi, and then Stacy Pearson, I think it is, with Lumen Strategies. Is that
Yep, I'm on too.
great? And we have members of staff in the Vera room and remote on Zoom. I'll turn it back to you, Chair Williams. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Rhonda.
Sorry, Chair Williams and Rhonda, for the record, I have Karen Cruz here in the room with me, listening in as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Heather. All right, are we ready to move forward? As I said earlier, we do have a short agenda. We have one action item on the agenda today, and that is the transit tax recommendation. And Heather, I believe you're leading us in this. Where's yours?
Great, awesome. Well, let me start with thanking all of you for making this meeting happen. We are scheduled to meet with City Council tomorrow on this same issue. And so time was of the essence with getting this before all of you for consideration and action so that we can either confirm the move ahead with City Council presentation tomorrow or remove this portion of our presentation if needed. So what you have before you is a recommendation that the board formally requests that the City of Flagstaff City Council, refer a transit tax measure to the ballot in November of 2024. There was a staff report in your packet that went over the background of how we arrived at this conclusion. And I'm not going to read everything in the staff report for you. There was a lot of information there, but I've tried to summarize it in some of the slides that we will go over today. Next slide, please. So as we look at the transit tax, I think it's really important to know where we stand financially. And so I'm really reviewing with you, the board, everything that will be reviewed with the City of Flagstaff regarding this particular portion of our presentation tomorrow. So we will look at our budget, our fund balance, a recap of Flagstaff in motion, what are the transit tax needs, and then again, that recommendation for your consideration. Next slide. So as we look at fiscal years 2024 to fiscal year 2025, transit tax budget specifically, you can see here on the slide the difference between 24 and 25. We have gone over these changes with you as a board in the last 3 expense presentations. A significant part of the increase from 24 to 25 is the match for these capital projects that we have going on in our community. But this really demonstrates the ongoing need to evaluate our transit tax. Next slide, please. Looking at the transit tax as a fund balance mechanism, we look at this every year as part of our budget process. We also look at it at mid-year. I'd like to talk through what the 3 lines are just to familiarize you with them. The blue line is actually our fund balance. So at the end of every year, after we either expend money or project to expend money, this is what remains in the fund balance of transit tax money that is collected by the City of Flagstaff. This fund balance does reside with the City of Flagstaff as the fiduciary of these funds. The green line is what Mountain Line has agreed upon with our board of directors as our fund balance. So this demonstrates the minimum funding required in our bank to feel like what we have on the road today is financially solvent and can continue to be provided. I have added the red line. This is not something we normally look at, but I added it to demonstrate places in time where we are overspending the annual collection. So the red line is a demonstration of each time in these years where we spent more than was collected. So if it's below the 0 mark, you can see we are over expending that revenue on an annual basis. And if you look out into the outlying years, this is one of the problems we are trying to resolve with the transit tax question that's been posed. And it is strictly due to cost escalation that is now exceeding the transit tax that we are collecting on an annual basis. Again, you see a very significant dip in 2025 and then in 2026, and that's completion of those capital projects. Next slide. So as we really looked at what Flagstaff in Motion was, this is the 5-year transit plan that the board did adopt several years ago. We started with this to look at what will be next in our transit programs. This map illustrates the basis of our service, and it will be provided to City Council just to, again, keep us all on the same page with what does transit look like today without any changes. Next slide. And then the transit plan did include what would be next for service. And you can see here the map that was in that transit plan, and it looked at what were all the different things that we could do. And this resulted in a prioritized list, which we now have taken to cobble together what is the funding that we need. Again, this map and these priorities will be included in our packet to City Council. Next slide. So at the end of the day, Flagstaff in Motion required 8 cents to close our revenue to expense gap, as just illustrated on the prior slide, the red line, as well as an additional 21.5 cents to provide the opportunity for implementation of all service changes identified in the prioritized Flagstaff in Motion or 5-year transit plan. So essentially, if we funded 100% of the programs as identified in Flagstaff in Motion, we would be talking about a doubling of our existing transit sales tax. So that's where we started from. We started with what would it take to implement Flagstaff in Motion. Next slide. And we put together a citizen review commission to help us look at what was palatable in our community. The Citizen Review Commission contained 9 members. We did have membership from the K through 12 schools here in town, human service agencies, writers, developers, community members, as well as city staff. We did have 3 meetings. The first was used to talk about Flagstaff in Motion and what it is and what it describes as being the future of transit programs, to review our financial data, and to evaluate public input from surveys. We did complete several surveys. Next slide. The first survey that we did was a phone survey. We had over 400 participants in that. And as you can see in the bullets under that phone survey, every time we ask about the appetite for an increase, the larger the increase, the smaller the favor was for that change. That was done last fall with no education in the public about what we might do with additional transit funding. This spring, after initiating the Citizen Review Committee, we did a second virtual open house and survey. And that survey allowed people to go through an educational opportunity to talk about what do we provide and what might we provide in the future. We had over 2,000 visitors to that virtual open house. About 170 of those visitors went all the way through and completed the survey, and we had significant support for a 20 to 25 cent increase. Next slide. So we went back to the drawing board on our funding to look at what could we do if we're sticking in the 20 to 25 cent increase. Again, we still need about 8 cents to close the gap between revenue and existing expenses. And really landed on another 12.5 cents, which rounds us to 50 cents on a $100 purchase, will provide us with the opportunity for increased frequency, longer hours of service, and service to unserved areas. These were the top priorities in the transit plan. Next slide. So really our next steps are for you, the board, to consider supporting a recommendation to City Council as on the screen. This was the recommendation in the letter that was shared earlier today in a memo that included, like I said, the base map as well as the service change map. We are asking for a single question. This question would replace the existing transit tax initiative. It would extend the tax from 2030 to 2040, and it would allow us to expand the rate from 29.5 cents to 50 cents on $100, effective July 1st of 2025. And then that tax would continue through 2040. The expanded funding will support the increased transit services described and prioritized in the 5-year transit plan. One key thing with City Council and the discussion with City Council was to provide alternatives to that recommendation. Next slide. So these alternatives were in the memo that I did share with you that I'm seeking permission to submit to City Council. None of these are recommended because I really feel like the recommendation we've made is the most appropriate to ensure that we have the funding and the resources to continue existing services as well as expand those services through 2040. And so with that brief presentation, next slide, I am seeking your support to submit this request to the City of Flagstaff to formally request that the City of Flagstaff send a single question to voters on November 5th of 2024 to both extend and expand the the existing transit sales tax as follows. Extend the tax to June 30, 2040. Expand the tax rate from 29.5 cents to 50 cents. And with that, Chair Williams, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know it was a brief review, but I'm hoping that we have been able to give you information throughout the process to aid in your decision-making today.
Thank you, Heather. Members of the board, do you have any questions for Heather at this time? Director Mayer.
Thank you, Chair Williams, and thank you for the presentation, Heather. So I want to ask you about the virtual open house.
Yes.
How were participants in the virtual open house self-selecting? Did they opt in, or were they somehow chosen out of? Tell me about that process.
Okay, sure. If I can, I would like to ask Stacy or Tom, who are consultants with Lumen Strategies that really helped us develop that virtual open house and then get that information out to members of our community.
Hi, it's Tom Evans. Thank you for the question. I'm happy to answer it. We notified the public in a couple of ways, and it was a very open-ended process. Any citizen who wanted to participate could participate, but without having an unlimited budget to reach out in the community, we focus on a couple of things. First, we were able to obtain a registered voter list with some cell phone numbers, so we were able to send direct text to folks to provide a link to them. Again, just based on voter registration, no other criteria really, and whether we had that information and data. But as a backup to that too, so those folks got 2 text messages encouraging them to participate, and that's really when we saw big spikes in traffic. The second was we did do a advertising campaign with the Arizona Daily Sun, both on their website and digital, and as well as their print editions over the course of a 3-week period, encouraging people to participate. So that's how we sort of steered people there. But there was no pre-selection or anything like that other than being a registered voter.
Okay, thank you for that. And then is there, with 170 respondents to the survey out of 2,000 people that engaged in the virtual open house, do we have any insight on the demographic, the voter makeup of those individuals who saw through the survey?
I can get that for you. I don't have it at my fingertips. We did analyze by their responses and their comments and things like that, but I don't think we completed the process of going back and cross-referencing that by age or gender or anything like that. But I can check on that information to see if I can get it back to you.
Okay. And the reason for my question, I think, in your work, it's probably obvious, that to a certain degree, right? I'm always leery of folks who opt into a process, because just my concern that, the survey results are ultimately skewed in a certain direction that might not be reflective of the larger populace.
I certainly hear that, and there's a couple of things to that. First of all, there was a process in late last year where they actually conducted a phone survey, which was the first kind of touch point for information, and that is a situation where you're very cautious about the audience that you draw, and you're eliciting information from them. This particular process, we wanted to be more universal and more open-ended. So what I think you would probably find as we go back through this, it'd be less of a conversation around, gender and demographics and more of a conversation around participation, both in the political process and in transit in general. So you would probably find that the folks that are, taking the time to provide the answers and fill out the survey are ones that are more involved and engaged. That often our experience means that it's a more cynical audience in some ways, against things like, public works and transit taxes and things like that. But so, we try to kind of give the public an opportunity, anybody who wanted to participate, an opportunity. And therefore, there may be some trend lines to that. I'll have to go back and look, but I don't think it would be anything significant to change what is a pretty overwhelming response that we saw there, even in an environment where, folks could be potentially skeptical about the use of their tax dollars. We just didn't see it. And those are the folks that would be more skeptical about the use of their tax dollars are generally louder and more apt to give input than not.
I appreciate your insight there.
And if I may, one of the things I did not cover in the presentation that I made that we did discuss with the Citizen Review Committee, and we have talked with city staff about, is we are in a fortunate position in that the existing tax does not expire till 2030. This is not if it fails, I hate to even utter those words, but if it were to fail, we do have the opportunity to come back and seek additional funding before we're really faced with a significant reduction to transit services to at least have the existing extended. We do, however, feel like it's an important opportunity to not just extend, but to ask for that increase that's necessary to increase our opportunities for additional transit services. As we all saw with the hospital and the conversations in the community about that move, Mountain Line having funding available for expanded service is critical. I don't know what else would come in or move around in our community, but we want to be responsive to that and ensure our members of the public have access to transit services for job access as well as medical care access. So we just think this is an important opportunity to do both, knowing that if we were not successful, we do have the safety net, if you will, of coming back in a future year.
Thank you, Heather.
Heather, all right, go ahead, Joshua.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Heather, I had to have a couple of questions. One, anytime we get into an election cycle, particularly one on the presidential.
Yeah.
This would be for this fall, correct?
Yes, we would be asking for to be on the ballot for this fall. Yes, sir.
And that would be, do you know like what other items it might be contending with? It is that when a ballot gets really saturated with a bunch of different tax increases, that tends to not necessarily bode well with. So I'm just curious what you might know on that end.
I can speak about what we have identified locally. We do meet with the city and the county and the school district and the community college on a regular basis, and we talk about ballot initiatives, specifically about strategy. This year, we anticipate that there will be this question from the city of Flagstaff, if it's approved, as well as a question regarding BBB renewal for the city of Flagstaff, and that's not an expansion, that one is a renewal. We understand that Coconino County may have a question on expenditure limit, but not a taxation question. And none of the other local entities have identified funding questions. That said, we are very aware that this will be a very long ballot. I've heard 2 pages double-sided, and that our question locally, the city of Flagstaff questions, could be on the back page of that second page of the ballot. So we're aware of all of those things, but that's what we understand, Chair Williams, about what are the local funding issues. I don't think any of us can necessarily predict what the state is going to end up with on the ballot. There's lots of rumors, but I don't know if any of them will be funding specific.
Heather, is there any cost for Mountain Line to have this on the ballot?
Yes, sir, there is. So we will have Mountain Line as an agency, we will have our expenses for our education and outreach efforts. And that's budgeted in 2025. We do actually have some budgeted in 2024 as well. And then we will share the cost of calling that ballot and the fees that Coconino County charges to the city of Flagstaff. We do pay that also out of the transit tax at the city level.
Thank you, Heather.
Mhm.
Other directors, do you have questions for Heather?
I do. This is Jeronimo Vasquez. Just in case I missed it during the presentation, this is only expansion of services within the city limits, correct? Not beyond into the county, and the only folks voting on this is a city initiative, correct?
Supervisor Vasquez, thank you for the clarification. This is a city transit tax initiative. And so, yes, it is the city voters. It's a tax paid for expenditures inside the city limits, and therefore it is used for city transit. We continue to have conversations separately about how we expand county services, but this would not be the mechanism for that.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, directors?
I have a question. This is Councilmember Matthews.
Yes, go ahead.
And actually, it's not really a question. I just wanted to bring to light that this Thursday, the City Council has a special work session on the water rate increases.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting a lot of attention and a lot of frustration, understandably. And we did just pass a stormwater rate increase that people haven't started feeling the effects of. So there is the possibility that whatever the council ends up passing, the citizens may feel very overtaxed and overcharged, and that may have a negative impact on approving any other initiatives. And I just want to put that out there. I have no idea what we're going to end up doing. I'm advocating for less instead of more, but I'm one of 7. So just wanted to, we're not voting on it Thursday. We're just kind of hashing through a bunch of questions. But that might have a direct impact on how people feel about this, this on the ballot.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the information.
Any other questions? Sure. All right, that kind of leads us to cater a motion to approve from a member of the board.
This is Councilmember Sweet, and I move to approve. I don't have the exact language in front of me, but
I'll second. Supervisor Vasquez.
Great, thank you, Vice Chair Vasquez. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And that leads us to the end of our meeting. So just a reminder for everybody that our next board meeting is going to be for Wednesday, June 26th at 10 a.m. It's a hybrid meeting via Zoom and or in the Mountain Lion Vera Room here in Flagstaff. And any other things that you need to share, Heather?
There is not, besides, again, my gratitude for making today's meeting work.
Great, thank you very much. I do appreciate the directors for being able to make this happen today. And we wish Heather and her team the best of luck moving forward with their presentation. And I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
So
I'll
second,
second. I'll second.
first and second, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 All right, everybody, see you at our next meeting.
Thanks, everyone.